Okay, let's think about this. What's happening to net working capital in the case of Apple? Notice that this formula here basically does working capital assets minus working capital liability. So it gives us a net working capital. Try to think about, first of all, what does negative working capital, what does that mean? And then think about what does it mean if that balance is going down? Down meaning it's a negative, but it's becoming a bigger negative over time. Intuitively, we might think, well, a negative net working capital balance might be a bad thing. That means that Apple has more liabilities than assets. And from a solvency perspective, that could be the right way to think about it. It just means that the company owes more than it owns in a way when it comes to working capital. But from a cash flow perspective, that's actually not a bad thing. It just means that Apple is able to finance its operations through working capital liabilities more so than through working capital assets. And the fact that that number is going down, so it's becoming a bigger negative, not necessarily in year one, as you can see here, but it's becoming a bigger negative over time. It just means that there are more liabilities financing Apple's operations. What liabilities are those? The best one to think about is accounts payable. So relative to assets, for example, relative to receivables, accounts payables are growing at a faster clip. That's effectively what this is saying. So what does that mean? Well, it basically means that Apple's suppliers are financing the business, and that is effectively a good thing. It's less capital or less cash that Apple needs to put into the business to operate. It could be counterintuitive, but this is the way to think about it. Now, because this number, except for this first year over here, because this number is becoming a bigger negative, that is actually a positive for cash flow. And that's exactly what we see represented up here. Apple has a positive or a cash inflow from changes in net working capital, and that's what this formula is doing.